Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello to chat. Hello, Gypsy. How are you? Hello to the lurkers. Hello to who else am I saying hello to? Oh, I'm saying hello to the people watching on replay. How are you? Hang on a second. Why can't I? Oh, there it is. I'm going to replace that thing in the corner. Where is that amazing breaking news? Where did it go? That's weird. I guess that I should have saved it, right? Let me see. Hang on a second. Oh, there it is. There's my overlay. There's my breaking news overlay. All right, you guys, it's good to see you. Who is in chat? Hi, Amber Chick. Hello, Taliu. Am I following the Richard Allen case? I saw that he was sentenced to 130 years. Hello, Rosie Rose. Good to see you. And there are still people who are insisting that he didn't do it. Whatever. But hi, Tizzy. It's good that after so many years that we finally have a resolution. Richard Allen was found guilty of killing the two girls in the Delphi case. This was a big case in Indiana, and indeed it went national. So now he's going to be spending the rest of his life in prison. Good to see you guys. Now, I just wanted to share something amusing with you guys. I decided to go through my member list, and I saw some interesting names. Hello, Donna Morte. I see that some of you, not the people in chat. Merry Christmas to you, Donna Morte. It is always good to have you here. Thank you. And same to you and your loved ones. Thank you. I noticed that there are some people who have signed up for memberships who are running with the hare and hunting with the hounds. You might want to go look up that expression. Don't worry, I'm not going to out you. I'm not going to put you at risk for doxing and other predations. But I did notice some very unusual names. And no, these were not people who were gifted memberships. These were people who paid for them outright. Now, my question is, if you are willing to come over to this channel and pay money for a membership, why are you so hateful in other chats? I mean, if you're waiting for me to upload, oh, Brenda, thank you so much for that very, very generous donation. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Wisconsin. We sure as hell are. And thank you again. That is very, very kind. And I do appreciate the generosity, and have a wonderful holiday. And I'm sure I'll get the opportunity to say that again because I'm going to be streaming every day. But thank you in advance so much. My question is, why are you willing to pay us money and then go and talk about us like dogs in other chats? Why don't you just come in from the cold and stop being so crazy? But hey, money is money. I'll take it. That's all right. Well, we've got a lot of stuff to... No, not you, Rosie. Not you. No, definitely not you. I am not talking about you. I'm talking about people who buy memberships, don't come into chat, and then, go off on a toot in other chats. I see you. I'm not understanding the logic. I would not pay for a membership on the channel of a person or people that I don't like and that I've been open about not liking. I'm just saying. All right, so we've got a couple of topics to cover, but first, since I've got a few people in here, has anybody seen the movie Carry On? Carry On Netflix? Crochetter and I talked about it earlier. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard some great reviews, and they're comparing it. The reviewers are saying that it's a great Christmas movie in the vein of Die Hard. which it shares certain similarities, not Alan Rickman, unfortunately. But I heard it's really entertaining. So I am going to, hi, So Primitive. Good to see you. Oh, you watched Juror number 2? See, I've got a whole list of movies that I need to catch up on. And I'm going to be watching Carry On later because it sounds like a lot of fun. And Jason Bateman is in it, and I really like him. So, all right, now we've got a bunch of topics to cover. This is a variety show of sorts. And we're going to start with Fuentes. Now, I've made no secret of my feelings about Fuentes and the Groypers, who I think are basically a bunch of incel closet cases. But I think that in the spirit of the holidays, I will offer you all the gift of consistency. And the consistency that I speak of is do not go to a streamer or a YouTube content creator's home. Just don't do it. You have no business being there. Don't show up at people's properties uninvited. Don't threaten them. Don't make problems. If you really are that vexed, then leave a comment, tweet about it, go on Snapchat, go on Blue Sky, go wherever you want. But don't go to people's houses. Now, Fuentes had 2 separate incidents with people showing up at his house. And the second one, where the guy ended up getting killed, has been the subject of some amazing conspiracy theories. Now, I will just start off by saying I find it incredibly difficult to believe that an individual who killed several people downstate, then drove 120 plus miles north, and just so happened to end up at Fuentes' house. What an amazing coincidence. I think that he intended to be there. There have been people who have said, oh, well, he just showed up and he read Nick's name off of the mail. But why did he go to that house then? So he just drove to that suburb of Chicago and happened to pop up outside of the Fuentes house. And then he went next door and he shot 2 dogs. He broke into somebody's house and shot the family pets. Thank God the guy is dead. I wonder if we're ever going to find out the motive for this killing spree. I'm curious about that. I would very much like to know. But I find this vigilante culture to be extremely disturbing. And as I said yesterday, I thought it sucked when Frank Hassel went to Boogie's house. I thought that it sucked when Music Biz Marty went to Cyrax's home. I don't give a shit what the problems were. I don't care what you think of the person who was targeted. I think that it's just a big mistake. I think it sucks that Music Biz Marty targeted Chantal's mother. There is no justification for this. No justification for trying to disrupt businesses, homes, people's families. There's no justification for it. None. So I'm going to start with RuinedLeon, who is a really, really good channel. I think he's terrific. And I really like the way he presents his facts. There he is. And I've left links to both of the channels that I'm going to be featuring today in the description. Please do go and subscribe to them. They are terrific. Okay, so let's get started with Leon.
As you know, we've done 2 videos so far about Nick Fuentes and the escapades of what you should and should not do when it comes to seeing people online saying something you don't like. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen it. I do not endorse going to people's houses just because they said something you don't like.
Hi, Girl Sphere.
I do not think it's a wise idea to do it, especially when you get dared to do it by not just friends, but also random women in the street. I have seen the police body cam footage going around, and I do think it's funny that a guy who has admitted that he's a white supremacist ended up pulling his Mexican card by saying that his last name is Fuentes.
Because he's a fraud.
You're a white supremacist? I'm not a white supremacist. I'm Mexican. My last name's Fuentes. I know, I kind of a white supremacist. I saw.
And at the end of it all, there's a likelihood that Nick pays a fine for shoving the woman down and stealing her phone, but there's also the possibility he walks away scot-free.
So what happened?
Okay, so are you familiar with the resident?
So what happened?
Okay, so I'm just asking, this is important for you to realize. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the resident?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I have no idea who that is.
So, I'm not going to add extra to it. His name is Nick Fuentes, and he is a white supremacist, proudly, and he was on his very popular YouTube channel talking about how after Trump won, to women everywhere, basically, your body, my choice. Okay.
Okay, so Nick Fuentes goes on stream and he says, your body, my choice. High pressure. Why? Because Nick Fuentes is an asshole. I think that we can all agree on that. He's an asshole. And it made this woman mad. Now, this is a woman in her 50s. This is not a kid. This is not some stupid, person pulling off some gamer stunt. And by the way, all that swatting shit, guess what? The Justice Department has taken a very dim view of it. So the swatting shit needs to stop too. An 18-year-old was just arrested, and I don't know if he stood trial yet, but he was facing charges in multiple different states for swatting over 300 people. So that kid's life is over, in effect, for being an asshole. So just stop it. All right, just cut it out. Let's continue.
I got kind of somebody that kind of doing this.
So there are a lot of people who are doxing him because he basically threatened every woman.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Your body, my choice. I don't care how he votes. I mean,
that's not a fucking threat. That's a statement made by an asshole on the internet. That is not a fucking threat. Can we please stop escalating every racy or every spicy comment made on the internet to a threat? That is not a fucking threat. Let's continue.
Well, it kind of bothered you, right?
It doesn't matter. I know a lot of Republicans, my favorite office Republicans. Yeah. But my point is that is a threatening statement, and there are a lot of people who are upset about it.
Yeah.
I came by here because I live in Berwyn. I live on the south side.
Okay.
And
Okay, so you felt so threatened and so afraid that you decided to go to the guy's house. Okay, makes sense, right? It totally makes sense that when you're afraid of somebody or you think you've been threatened, that you're going to show up at their house. A tubby 50-plus-year-old woman is going to go rolling up to somebody's front door when they think that the person is a danger. Sure, okay.
I came to do a little video because my friends keep saying, he lives near town. Yeah. So I went outside and did a little video.
He lives near Trump.
In front of his house? Like,
yeah.
Videotaped his house?
On the sidewalk. Yeah.
Okay. And what was the reason for that, for videotaping his house?
Because I wanted to show people that there was no, there were no, people are...
Hi, Raven.
Claims that they're going to send deliveries to him of like dog poo and stuff. And I was showing there are no boxes of that there.
Okay.
And so a woman driving by said, ring his doorbell and say hello. So there are no signs on there saying anything about no solicitors, okay?
Oh.
So I rang the doorbell, immediately opened the door, sprayed me with pepper spray, and pushed me down the steps.
Oh, well.
Yes, he did.
And it got in your eyes?
Yes.
I'm going to call an
ambulance. My face.
Okay, before we go any further, I'm going to call an ambulance to make sure you're... No, but I want you to get checked out.
Whatever it is.
To the Berwyn. Okay, so
Hi, Benita.
He opens the door.
He opened the door in the same movement. He sprayed me and pushed me down
Thank you, Benita.
And you
fell
onto
backwards.
What?
I fell onto the sidewalk and, kind of rolled. He grabbed my phone and went back inside.
He grabbed the phone and went inside his house?
Yes. Yes.
The reason why you would come here to begin with?
Well, to
me, I know about the social post now. she told me about it. The lady that shot. It doesn't seem like a good idea to come to somebody's house and just, based on I get the post might upset you, and it might be something that you don't agree with, but to go into somebody's house is kind of over the top.
I understand that.
No, you don't.
At the same time, if somebody comes to my door who's upset with me and I don't know anything about them being violent or anything like that, I don't open the door, pepper spray them, and push them down the steps.
What's your phone number? So what would you like done in this situation?
I want to file some sort of complaint.
A complaint as in
assault.
So what happened?
So I was told, I'll just be completely honest with you. He's the white supremacist that coined the phrase, your body, my choice. So he is evil against women. And so as I pulled up, going past,
how do you know him?
It's all over the internet, and I'm just, I drove by because I'm ridiculous.
It's a post that he made?
I drove by because I'm ridiculous. Okay. All right. You are ridiculous. And why are we covering their faces? I want to see what these women look like. I know that they've been all over the internet and stuff, but there's no need to cover their faces because these women, these middle-aged women, have no business going to anybody's house. Let's be honest. And I do not believe that if some weirdo showed up at these women's homes and was standing out there knocking or whatever, that they would be like, oh, well. No, I don't believe it. I think that they would be quite frightened, but let's continue.
No, everybody's outing him because he's a white supremacist. And
phone number. So, why exactly were you here?
I drove by, wanted to see where the jerk lived, to be totally honest. I'm so disgusted with everything. And when I came by, other people were like taking photos, and then she was standing there, and I was...
Is your middle initial M for me?
Yeah.
Okay. Is your current address? You weren't involved. Do you know the lady?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I don't know either of them.
Can you just stay here? I'm going to try to make sure she's okay.
Sure, and I'll tell you exactly what happened. I saw the whole thing.
So, okay, can you just tell me really quick so I can go see if she's okay?
She went and pushed the doorbell. He opened the door, which was surprising. She didn't say a word. He came out with his full body, both arms, pushed her back. She fell off. There's 3 steps. She fell off onto the ground. She's trying to get up, and as she's getting up, she has a phone in her hand. He grabs it. He's going back up the stairs to his front door. He slams the phone down, and the phone went in the house.
Okay, and these women, that woman specifically, the one who went to the door, is very, very lucky that that's all that happened. Very lucky. You don't do that. You don't do it. Now, the obvious bit of advice that I would give is don't open the fucking door, just call the police. You don't want to get into this kind of a situation, you know, where it escalates and it gets out of control. And you don't know if the person on the other side of the door is armed or not. You have no idea. So just play it safe. Don't open the door, call the cops, and stay inside. But ultimately, the blame lies with these stupid women who decided that it would be a good idea to go to a stranger's home to do whatever fuck shit they decided to get up to.
And then he went inside?
And then he went inside.
Okay.
I tried to get her a couple of she's like, I'm okay.
Okay.
Especially when you include what occurred yesterday, which was a man who killed 3 people, I believe, or maybe 2. It may have been 3, and then traveling a significant distance to whose house? Nick Fuentes' house, knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell, saying, "Yo, Nick," while holding 2 weapons in his hand.
Right. Look at this. A crossbow and a firearm. And I heard that there were also incendiary devices, but I'm not sure about that. Does it matter? I mean, this is enough, right? It is Taliu. It's terrifying.
Yo, Nick.
I'm sorry, but please explain to me. That's a good idea, Forms. I wish I knew how to crochet. I think that sounds very relaxing. You mean to tell me that this individual traveled over 120 miles after killing 3 people and just happened to end up in front of Fuentes' house? because like I said before, people are speculating that, he just figured out that Nick was there because he saw the mail. No. He walked up that driveway. He put the crossbow down. He glanced around and then yelled, "Yo, Nick." He knew where Fuentes lived. I'm sorry, but this was a deliberate targeting of Nick Fuentes. And again, it doesn't matter that I think that Nick Fuentes is an asshole. Do I think that this man deserves to be gunned down at his own home because some lunatic, a murderer, decided that he had had enough and he was going to go, ham? No. No one deserves this. No one. Period. End of fucking story. Let's continue.
Now, I should say there's a little bit of controversy with all of this because I've seen people argue back and forth about the legitimacy of all of this because in one corner's mind, this seems completely staged. And in response to those people, they'll say something like, well, how could it be staged when he clearly walked up to the front porch and said, "Yo, Nick," he clearly knows that this is his house and his address and he's there because some weirdo doxed him because how dare they do such a thing? You shouldn't be reacting this way to negative things seen online. And there's a weird corner of that group saying, "We'll dox all of you," which please stop.
That's
that.
What happened.
I don't care what any of you see online unless we're actually trying to look for somebody who's wanted by the cops and the FBI. Don't start leaking people's addresses because you hate their opinions on social media. Clearly, a lot of people don't want their addresses leaked because of that. So please don't do that. I don't care what type of moral justice you think you got going on. You are stupid if you do that all over online opinions. However, I would like to just add my 2 cents in regards to this subject matter because based on the footage, it's clear as day. The dude walks up to the porch, looks down, sees packages on the ground at night and thinks, "Oh, who lives here? Oh, some guy named Nick. I could just say, 'Yo, Nick.'" And that's my conspiracy theory about the whole thing. Hi, it's me after I already recorded the video. And you know why you should subscribe to this channel? It's because when I say something, I could potentially be wrong. And unlike other people, I could admit when I'm wrong before uploading the video. And my theory about how this dude just showed up at a random house and decided, "Hey, I'm going to walk up to this one and look down and, oh, all of these packages say Nick on it." Clearly, the owner, or at least someone in the house is named Nick. Oh, that works out. It really doesn't work out when you consider the additional Ring camera footage that Nick has provided to show that this dude clearly might have been looking specifically for him. And it leads to a stronger case for Nick that somebody, after killing 3 people, was looking for him. And it don't really look good for any of the opposition that wants to say it's staged. But much like all things, time will indeed be the thing that tells us the truth. Regardless of however this plays out in terms of further details, I believe at time of recording, Nick is now thinking of suing all the media outlets who are not bringing up what happened to him or trying to make it seem like he staged it or trying to make it seem like this dude didn't target him at all. Further details will clear this story up no matter how anyone slices it. The main takeaway, whether if this dude was targeting Nick and he just killed 3 people on the way and then when he couldn't do it, ended up killing 2 dogs by the way, or if this was just some random dude showing up trying to hide from the cops and going house to house to house to house to house to house to house, the important thing, at least in this scenario, is this: don't be stupid, don't be crazy, and stop leaking people's addresses because you don't like what they're saying online. I do not care how much any of it upsets you. You stupid wannabe positive bitches need to take your own fucking advice and knock out the negativity, not constantly engage in doom scrolling and seeing all the things you hate speak, and you just think to yourself, "Yeah, why are you here? I think it would be a good idea to dox you." You know why? Because if people see something you post and they don't like it and they decide to find out where you live and dox you, you're not going to like that. I've said it both videos in the past. I don't like Nick Fuentes. I don't want to know where this motherfucker lives. I don't want to see any inkling of where he lives. It's bad enough I know the state in which he lives in. I don't want to know anymore. I do not care to know. I don't like the things he says. And you know what I do with my time? I go watch something else. I enjoy my time with something positive. I've been rewatching iCarly for the past 4 days now, and that's been a better use of my time than doom scrolling to see what some negative thing is said by a guy who clearly doesn't like a subsection of people or tries to get a rise out of them by saying something stupid. It's not.
Yeah, and I think that the critical thing here, I mean, I'm sure that the names have been made public by now. I haven't checked. However, I think that the critical thing is that the 3 victims were 120 plus miles away from Fuentes' home. So the guy drove 120 miles and happened to end up in Berwyn, where he happened to end up at Fuentes' house. No, pull the other one. Nope. Let's continue.
Beneficial. It's not helpful. And when you leak his address, or when you show up to his house trying to get a gotcha or try to get a recording and try to feign innocence like you just showed up randomly, like, oh, I was just sightseeing, you're stupid and you are not helpful. May the guy who ended up killing 3 people and dogs rest in absolute piss. And I hope this whole thing gets resolved so that I could come back here and say, don't show up to people's houses, don't leak their addresses, and actually try to lead normal lives, which is what everyone should do in the Leon Society. And if you agree with that, you should subscribe, because the Leon Society reigns supreme. I'll see you all in the next one. Mwah. Yes, I got extremely cold. It's like 30 degrees outside, and I need a big woman to cuddle next to.
I love him. I love him. Please subscribe to him. He does great content. And he does very good commentary. He's a serious person, but he's humorous. And speaking of serious but humorous, I'm going to feature the next video by Ty Rivera, who calls himself the best LGBTQ comedian in the world. We've heard this a million times. I'm a little bit fucked off with him at the moment, but yes. That is the major reason, besides the fact that it's a gross violation of privacy. Just don't go to somebody's house. Don't go to somebody's house. You never know. You have no idea what's on the other side of the door. Just don't do it. And plus, it's just a fucked up thing to do. Okay. So after I was rewatching my stream from yesterday with that Riverboat Jack person. And I was reminded of something, which is that these activists who are talking about integrating female sports, if you can even call it that, that's a kind word for it, and bringing up the civil rights movement and Jesse Owens and people like that, also bizarrely try to bring up Michael Phelps when they talk about people having a natural biological advantage in sports. And I was reading some very interesting stats on Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps, I mean, it's unkind to call him a freak of nature, but Michael Phelps happens to have the perfect body type for swimming. Michael Phelps is 6'4" tall. His wingspan, meaning the measurement from fingertip to fingertip, is 6'7". He has a wider wingspan than he is tall. He also has size 14 feet, which work like paddles. And his torso is longer than his legs. So, I mean, it's almost like he was designed to swim. Yes, that gives him an advantage in a sport. No question about it. Just like being super tall gives you an advantage in basketball. There have been short players. But I think that the shortest player who's currently playing is 5'8", and the next shortest are 6 feet tall. There was a guy who played, or I don't think he's still playing, who was 5'3", but he was an aberration. In order to make it in the NBA, you have to be a certain height. And nobody complains about that. The thing is, Michael Phelps was racing against other men. All right. Michael Phelps would never get into a pool and race a female swimmer, Riley Gaines, or somebody like that. That is preposterous. It is preposterous. And as a matter of fact, I was reading an interview with one of the women who medaled in Los Angeles. And it was the year that the Soviet Union decided to abstain from competing at the Olympics because Jimmy Carter had decided not to send a U.S. delegation to Moscow in 1980 to protest the invasion of Afghanistan. So in 1984, the Russians pulled out. And I read an interview with one of the women who medaled in Los Angeles, and she was saying point blank that if the East German women had shown up to swim, that she would not have ended up on the winner's podium. It wouldn't have happened because of the doping and the widespread cheating and that kind of thing. So, I mean, all these references to Michael Phelps drive me absolutely crazy. They don't prove anything. They don't prove anything. Ian Thorpe, the Australian swimmer, also had giant feet that people used to comment on because they would work like paddles. But all that is completely irrelevant to the conversation because, again, Michael Phelps was racing against men. Why is this so difficult to understand? In some sports, being tall gives you a natural advantage, just like in gymnastics, being very, very tiny gives you an advantage. You know, I tell this story about how I showed up for tryouts when I was at Brown. My freshman year, I showed up for tryouts for the crew team. And the coach took one look at me and said, well, you can't row, but you can be the coxswain. And I thought that was a huge ripoff. I didn't want to be the cox. I wanted to row. But then I took a look at the girls who were rowing, and they were very, very tall with very long arms and very long legs, which I do not have. The coxswain ideally should be 5'3" or shorter, very, very small in stature. And it's an important job on the boat, but it kind of sucks that you have to get up and go to practice at 6 o'clock in the morning in the freezing cold, the rain, the sleet, the heat, whatever, the terrible weather. But you're not getting the health benefits of actually rowing. You're just, you know, giving instructions to the team. And I didn't feel like that was unfair because obviously to row, you need to have a certain body type, just like playing volleyball. It's to your benefit to be tall when you're a volleyball player. So this notion that just because Michael Phelps has a huge wingspan and big feet means that men should be allowed to compete against women, it doesn't make sense, okay? Now, we have had a horrific incident happen in Wisconsin, and I tweeted about this yesterday, and I could scarcely believe what I was reading. I was absolutely in shock. So we're going to take a look at Ty Rivera's video about it because he did a really good job. Let me get this going. And Ty Rivera's channel is also linked in the description. So please feel free to subscribe to him. I'm still awaiting his video on Sal Grover, who was the defendant in the Tickle versus Giggle case in Australia, which set the women's movement back decades. I don't know what his beef is with Sal Grover, but I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say. But in this case, I was 100% with him, I think. I mean, I scrolled through the video, but let's take a look.
Of page 82, you guys struck out, or from providing separate toilets, locker room, and shower facilities. Like that was struck out of the old policy. You see it? So what is that saying? Like, so does that mean like if my daughter's on a swim team with a trans girl, she has to go in the locker room with a person with a penis? Is that what we're doing?
That's exactly what they're saying.
So we would.
So policy 5110.2, which is not what we're discussing today.
Quick to point out that policy 5110.2, which is the one that allows for this, is not what we're discussing today. I wonder why she's being so clear about that.
But that is the policy that speaks of non-discrimination guidelines related to students who are transgender or non-conforming. And within that policy, and I don't have it up right now, but there are legal rights and protections, and the locker room, restroom accessibility language is in that policy. So efforts are made.
All right. I'm going to warn you right up front. This one's going to make you angry, and this is why these laws need to be changed. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, you guys, like I said, this story is going to make you mad, and I
Very
know
mad.
because it made me mad. It comes to us from out of Westosha, Wisconsin, which I can't say that I'm at all familiar with, but I don't really think you have to know where it's at to be annoyed with this situation. And before anybody has to ask in the comments, I'm not wearing a hat today just because I got my hair cut and I felt like actually combing it for once, so no hat today, but there's nothing going on with me and Team MAGA. I'm not upset, I'm not angry, I'm not in protest, I'm just not wearing a hat today. But here's the deal. This story will really anger you, and when I'm done with it, I would urge you to look in the description box below, and I'm going to put a link there to another story that has more details on not only how this story came to pass, but also gives contact information to the school board members that are letting this happen. Because what's going on is this particular high school is allowing a boy that identifies as a girl to use the girls' locker room, and this is not behaving in a ladylike manner at all. And even though the article has the contact information, if I were to hit anybody up about it, any of the school board members, I would politely let them know that this story is catching traction and people are keeping their eye on it to see what actually plays out. Because you're going to hear this story is wrong on so many levels, and
on every level
are being wronged on so many levels that I don't really know how the school board has even let it get this far or let it become this much of a problem. But do not threaten anybody if you decide to contact any members of the school board. Do not harass them. Just send them a polite message letting them know, hey, we've got an eye on you. And before anybody tries...
And I want to remind everyone, I just shared Ty Rivera's video in chat, and so you can check out his description box. These school board officials are public officials. They are elected officials. And so if you want to get in touch with them and let them know what you think, that is their job. They ran for office knowing that they are accountable to the public. So this is not like showing up at somebody's house. This is not like calling somebody's job because you don't like what they say on the internet. This is not like contacting people's families and harassing them. This is contacting elected officials to let them know what you think.
To remind me that I have trans friends and this is what Nancy Mace is fighting against. Here's the deal. My trans friends are nothing like this. Also, my trans friends are well into adulthood. From a generation when this would have never happened. And this is the reason that I think Nancy Mace needs to watch the way she's talking. Because while I do support what she claims to be standing for, the way that she's talking leaves it open for people to call it discrimination. And if you leave that window open when you're dealing with professional victims, which is what the trans activists are, they are professional victims. They're very used to gaming the system. They're very used to getting their way.
Okay, I don't think that Nancy Mace gives a shit. And something that needs to be pointed out too about the Nancy Mace story is that one of the things that I neglected to mention about this whole bathroom thing at the Capitol, while it is true that members of Congress have the protection of the Capitol Hill Police, and while it is true that members of Congress have private bathrooms in their offices and all of that, hi, Monsieur Mike, how are you? What is also true is that those public bathrooms at the Capitol are also used by Hill staffers. They're used by visitors. They're used by all kinds of people, not just members of Congress. So that is why the language in this rule that she is proposing is so broad. And that is why it is not directed at a single person. It is not a bill of attainder. It's not a bill at all, actually. It's just a change in the rules. But that's why this conversation is so incredibly important. Now, let's give this a listen.
Used to manipulating things so that people feel
good to
bad
see you,
for
Mike.
them, and convincing people that this is the same as the civil rights movement. So when our legislators and lawmakers talk about these things, it's not the same as you or I talking about these things. And that's why Nancy Mace frustrates me with the rhetoric that she's using when dealing with these situations. Because if you're going to introduce legislation legislation to stop this from happening, then you do have to watch your wording. And I know some people would say the people that control the language control the argument. To a degree, yes. But like I said, if you're dealing with legal matters, you've got to make sure that it doesn't come off as discrimination. And with some of the things Nancy Mace has said, referring to trans women as trannies, referring to trans women as chicks with dicks, you're not a frat boy, Nancy. You're a lawmaker that's supposedly supposed to be standing up for women and women's rights, and you're smart enough to know that they will use that against you. And like I told you guys before, I don't think she cares. I will end up making a full video about that, but even more has happened with Nancy Mace over the weekend, and I felt like this story is pressing enough that I wanted to get it out there. I've been doing some fun ones lately, and I'm gonna go back to doing some fun ones in the next couple of days, but this one I felt was important enough that I wanted people to actually hear what's going on, because like I said, these girls are being wronged on so many levels. So the name of this publication is the Kenosha County Eye, and the headline is "Parents of Female Students Outraged After Boy Parades Around Girls' Locker Room Naked, Exposing Himself at Westosha Central High School." So let's go. Several parents of female students have contacted KCE with a very serious concern. According to allegations shared with KCE by multiple sources, a boy has been using the girls' locker room to change at Westosha Central High School. He stares at the young girls while they change, and that makes them feel very uncomfortable. Some of the girls began to use the stalls to change. When they would exit, the boy would be exposing his penis and rubbing himself with lotion. He claimed to the girls that the lotion was to prevent chafing. The boy changes in full nude, often exposing his penis and testicles. Many girls, some or most freshmen, approached the gym teacher, Miranda Hopkins. Hopkins told the girls that the boy identifies as a girl, so they have to let him have access. Okay, that is not the way any of these protections were meant to be enforced. I don't know when people decided to go so heavy on self-ID, and I don't even think trans in junior high and high school should be a thing. I think that when it comes to dealing with transgender people, or more specifically, transsexual people, one, I think you should have to be an adult before that actually is considered to be your diagnosis. And two, if any special accommodations are going to be made for you as far as what facilities you're going to be using, then I think you should actually have to have a diagnosis from a medical professional stating that you do deal with gender dysphoria. Because this, what's being described, is not the behavior of a person that suffers from gender dysphoria. People that suffer from gender dysphoria do not want to expose themselves to you. They are in a lot of cases ashamed of their bodies. It brings them great shame that they have these bodies that don't line up with what's going on in their head. And I know some people would say, well, why are we feeding into these people's mental illness? Well, that's the thing about actual transsexual people. They usually don't want you to feed into their mental illness. They usually want to fly under the radar and just be able to live their lives and not call any attention to themselves. They're not looking for you to celebrate them. They're not looking for you to affirm them. They really are just trying to fly under the radar in a lot of cases and not deal with anything like this. So when people think that trans people are actually trying to be deviant in their behavior, that's usually not what's going on at all.
Okay, then we need to come to an agreement about what actually constitutes transgender, just like we need to come to an agreement about what a woman is. We need to be very precise with our language and stop conflating transgender, meaning people who have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. And yes, I said diagnosed because this self-ID thing is bullshit and it needs to go away. We need to make a distinction between transgender people with gender dysphoria, who, as he said, just want to live their lives in peace, don't want to make a fuss. Transvestites, cross-dressers, and I'm not talking about drag queens, okay? I'm talking about people, men usually, who like to cross-dress, and AGPs, or autogynephiles. We need to make that distinction and stop. For the sake of legitimate, actual transgender people, we need to stop lumping them all together. That's how we end up in this mess.
all. These are people that self-ID as trans because they figured out that that's a way for them to be a perv and be inappropriate, just like this boy is right here. I wouldn't even call this person trans on any level. I would say that this is a boy that has figured out that this is a way for him to be a creep, and for some reason his parents are allowing it and the school board is enabling it because obviously they're still dealing with woke mentality, which I didn't know had spread to Wisconsin. I wouldn't imagine Wisconsin for being that, but I guess everything always starts off at the coast and then works its way in. So
okay, well, I have a little bit of a station break here. If you didn't imagine that Wisconsin would be like that, imagine Wyoming being like that. Remember the case of the sorority at the University of Wyoming, Kappa Kappa Gamma? Let me give you an update. This is an article from May. I'm just going to read it to you. 6 members of Kappa Kappa Gamma at the University of Wyoming are suing their sorority for admitting a man who identifies as a woman. The sisters argued their case before a 3-judge panel of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals in Denver on Tuesday. The women are alleging that the sorority's decision to fall 2022 to admit a man, Artemis Langford, violated its bylaws, which state that all members be women. The sisters have also said that Langford has harassed them in their sorority house by watching them change, taking photos, and asking invasive sexual questions. We never used to lock our doors at night. I would sleep with my door open all the time, and then all of a sudden it became me locking my door and just hoping that I wouldn't hear heavy footsteps in the hallway while I'm sleeping because I knew who it would be. All of a sudden, it became very uncomfortable to go to the bathroom and shower because you never know who's going to be sitting there or watching. This sorority sister said that some of her friends in the sorority caught Langford staring at them when coming out of the shower, and that there were other instances that made them very, very scared. In the sorority house, there are women who have been sexually assaulted in the past, and that's why living in a sorority house is so comforting to them. It's just a safe haven, and they were stripped of that. We were all stripped of it. Rather than listening to their fears and negative experiences, the sorority began ostracizing anyone who disapproved of Langford's admission, labeling them transphobic and using bullying tactics to pressure them to agree. In August 2023, federal judge Alan Johnson dismissed the sisters' lawsuit on the grounds that a woman is clearly defined in the sorority's bylaws and is thus open to the group's interpretation. The 6 sisters appealed the decision to the 10th Circuit Court in October, continuing to argue that Kappa Kappa Gamma subverted their own bylaws and other governing documents, and did so in bad faith by changing their membership criteria. A representative for Kappa Kappa Gamma, I'm guessing this is the national chapter, said it would continue to vigorously defend against any attempt by plaintiffs to use the judicial system to take away a private organization's fundamental rights and cause lasting damage to individuals and to our membership. I swear to God, it's like living in an upside-down world. So you've got these sorority sisters who rushed this sorority specifically so that they could live exclusively with other women. And now we've got this guy coming in being a weirdo, and these girls have nowhere to turn. Even their own national chapter is not standing by them. It is absolutely maddening. So does it surprise me that this happened in Wisconsin? If it can happen in Wyoming, it can happen anywhere. All right, so let's continue.
I could see the influence of New York and LA just finally beginning to work its way into the Midwest, and now Wisconsin is dealing with it. I expected better from you, Wisconsin. I'm going to be honest about that. There is a family locker room in the school that the girls started using, but Hopkins told the girls they can't use it and to stop stirring up drama. The girls then stopped changing in the locker room and went to gym class without the proper gym clothes on. The school punished them by marking down their grades and handing out unexcused absences.
Okay, so the girls went into a family changing room. The gym teacher admonished them, and now they are facing disciplinary action. Not the boy. The girls are facing disciplinary action because they don't want to change in front of a boy. This is what it's come to. Let's continue.
Okay, so I don't understand if there is a family locker room and you have a person that identifies as trans. I don't know why you can't just designate the family locker room to that particular person instead of having the girls go to the family locker room. That makes no sense at all. And if you listened at the beginning of the story when I played that clip, they mentioned gender nonconforming. Well, if you're gender nonconforming, which means you don't consider yourself to be male or female, you don't have any real assignment to the binary or either one of those two things in layman's terms, then why is the default to go to the women's bathroom? Why would the default not be for you to just go to the bathroom that aligns with what your actual sex is? That's what I never understand when they're talking about gender nonconforming, because they always assume or throw gender nonconforming into the girls' bathroom. If you have a person that's gender nonconforming or trans, why do you not just put them in the family locker room since you have a family locker room? And then when the girls exercise their right to modesty, their right to feel safe and protected, and they're like, okay, just not to make this a problem, we'll go to the family locker room. And then they have the gym teacher telling them that they're stirring up drama, so they're not allowed to go to the family locker room. How out of her mind is this gym teacher to think that it's okay to tell these girls that they have no right to exercise their option to go to a space where they feel more comfortable?
It's
if
unbelievable.
The space assigned to them is no longer a safe space. And I'm not a person who's using safe space in that woke type way or politically correct way. I'm saying that the family locker room is basically a refuge for these girls that are being harassed, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. They are being harassed and made to feel uncomfortable and made to feel unsafe in a space that is supposed to be designated for them. So they do the least dramatic thing ever and handle themselves in a more adult manner than most adults would be. Because a lot of adults would be like, no, this is our space. We want this person out of here. That's what most adults would be like. These girls are being even more grown up than most adults would be and saying, fine, if this is the space where this person is going to be changing, I'm going to remove myself from this situation.
And by the way, we're talking about girls who are 14 years old. And the boy apparently is 16. Now, I get it, 2 years difference. Still, these are very young girls, very young teens, and they're behaving in an exemplary fashion. And the adults are completely throwing them to the wolves and threatening to reprimand them and punish them if they go into a family locker room. What is the harm? Why can't the girls go into a family locker room? What is wrong with this gym teacher? She is out of her goddamn mind.
And I will go to the family locker room. And then that's not allowed. So then they're just like, okay, well, if I have no place that I can change, that I can feel comfortable, that I can feel safe, that I'm not being exposed to things that I don't want to see or people that I don't want seeing me in a state of undress. So they're like, okay, so I just won't change it into gym clothes. And then they get their grades marked down and inexcused absences because they're offered no option that offers them safety and protection. How does that?
And this is exactly what I've read is happening in women's prisons in the UK, where, the women who go to the prison warden or the guards to complain about a man in their facility are the ones who are being targeted and threatened with negative reports to the parole board, with discipline. They're gaslighted and told there are no men in this facility who are locked up with you. No male inmates, I should say, in the facility locked up with you. And in the UK, I've read reports of how in one women's prison, the women are sleeping in shifts so that they can always be on the lookout for a male inmate, who is usually a person who has been locked up for committing a violent crime. Whether it is rape, assault, assaulting a child, whatever. And they are forming these like little squads to protect one another because the guards are not protecting them and the prison warden is not protecting them. It is grotesque. Let's continue.
That even makes sense in anybody's world at all. Forget what you identify as, whether you're gay, straight, LGBT, queer, whatever you are. You're telling me that these girls have absolutely no option to say
Evidently
that
not.
I don't want to be a part of this. This
Nope.
is not the way any of this is supposed to work. This is not at all what LGBT rights are about. This is not at all what anything to do with the community that I came up
Nope.
in, as far as the gay community would ever try to push on anybody. Multiple parents have called the school multiple times, and the school leadership finally called, seemingly trying to address the issue. The girls were told that the boy is no longer allowed in the female locker room, but they said he isn't listening to the directive. So now the boy has been told not to be in the female locker room, and he's still going to the female locker room. One
Of
girl
course.
was allegedly assaulted by the boy as she told him to, quote, put his dick away, and he pushed the girl. He was suspended for his violence and or smashing a Chromebook in a fit of rage against another student. Okay, so he pushed a girl and then he smashed somebody's Chromebook. It sounds like in two separate instances. Not only do I think that this student doesn't belong in the girls' locker room, I don't think that this student should even be in the school. Not about suspension, all the way expulsion. Between the violent behavior and the creepy behavior, there should be some loophole or something that allows them to just be like, hey, I don't think this kid needs to go here. I think they're being real loose with the way that they're enforcing these laws and guidelines, whether it's the school guidelines or state law, and I can't imagine that there's not some sort of loophole that would allow them to get this student out of their school. Some students have told school staff that the boy has threatened to shoot up the school, but they say the teachers laughed it off and told the students not to be dramatic. Okay.
Okay. So now the kid is threatening to shoot up the school and people are laughing it off and telling the girls. They're gaslighting these girls to hell and back, aren't they? So you've got a kid who has said that he's going to shoot up the school. And instead of having him arrested, instead of, expelling him, now we need to tell the girls that they're imagining things and that there's no danger posed by this kid. What the hell is going on in this school district? What is this? See, this is why contacting the school board makes sense, because this is madness. So now they're endangering the entire school because they don't want to do anything about this kid. All right, let's go.
So we just had what happened less than a week ago in Madison, Wisconsin, and now you've got another student threatening to do the same thing, and it's not being taken seriously. The girls are being told not to be dramatic. I'm telling you guys, I'm going to go ahead and send an email myself. Don't think that I'm not. I'm actually going to send an email to each one of them and just be like, hey, I did a story on you guys, and I'm going to send them to this video because they don't realize that people are going to be paying attention to this. Maybe I'm going to tweet this at Nancy Mace. This would be one for her to get on. Forget worrying about the federal bathrooms. You guys have the most protection in the world. Worry about instances like this, where actual students, where actual young people are being victimized by this. That's the other thing that gets on my nerves about Nancy Mace. She didn't have a problem with all this until she was possibly going to be exposed to it. And now she's the biggest proponent of women's rights. But even as early as 2023, she was still pro-LGBT and fine with the pronouns and everything else. So keep that in mind when you're getting mad at me because I'm not just blindly supporting Nancy Mace. It didn't bother Nancy Mace until it affected her. And if she ignores a story like this, you'll know she's full of it. Because even if she can't do anything about it right now, legislatively, she can call a spotlight to it. She can make sure that people know that it's going on a much bigger level. And I'd be willing to bet that will make the school want to do everything within their power to do something about this, which I'm sure they have more options than what they've exercised so far. This boy.
Okay, so my response to Love Arts, I've just dropped an article in chat. Now, it is true that the UK has changed its policy as of last year, but why would there have been a need to change a policy unless there had been a problem to begin with? Why would you have to say that all male prisoners have to go to male prisons? unless there had been male prisoners locked up with women in the first place. So you can use that verb tense wordplay to say that I'm wrong, okay? But there was a problem, and that's when those women were getting together to protect one another in those prisons. And that's what led to this change in policy. Let's go.
Boy, when he attended Salem, was also in constant trouble for violent behavior. One father told KCE, "I find it unacceptable that a 14-year-old girl is required to change in front of a 16-year-old boy to complete a required class in school. I don't feel like the district is taking this seriously." I don't feel like they are either. KEC made contact today with John Gendron, Westosha's administrator. He told us, quote, "Unfortunately, I'm not able to comment on your question regarding the student mentioned, as it deals with student privacy, including student records and discipline." Okay, well then don't address it to the press, but just do something about it in your school system. KCE contacted a Kenosha County Sheriff's Office spokesman today who said the Sheriff's Office has not received a complaint about these allegations, but will be looking into them. The Kenosha Unified School District just voted to allow boys in the girls' locker room and sports, and some wondered what could go wrong. Apparently, this is what could go wrong. We will keep you updated as we learn more. And I will keep you guys updated as we learn more, because this is a story that I really want to see what happens with. This school needs to do right by these girls, not only in what they're being exposed to, but in what they're allowed to choose to expose themselves to. When you leave people no options, you make them think that they're going to be voiceless and powerless for the rest of their lives. Like, that's why I get so angry about these particular stories. Like, it happened not too long ago in a story I did where girls were just being forced to play against a young boy. And it was some young grade. I can't even remember anymore. It was like middle school or younger. And the female students were being punished for saying that they didn't want to play with a biological male, and they were getting in trouble for it. They were being suspended from the team. And when you punish people for standing up for themselves, for exercising their right to not only free speech, but also just their right to feel safe, then I think it's just a really bad thing to put in their heads at such a young age that they'll never be able to have a voice, or they'll never be able to actually voice that they're not comfortable with something, because they'll forever remember when they were in high school and they were being punished for just speaking out. And like I said, we're talking about 14 here. Like, that's 14. An age where you really do take things as like, oh, this is just the way the world works. That's when you're figuring out what adulthood is going to be like, or what it's going to be like moving forward. And so I just think it's a terrible thing to teach these young girls, if they have a problem with anything, if they don't feel safe, if there are actual threats being made, that they should just keep their mouth shut, because they don't want to be accused of stirring up drama. They don't want to be accused of being dramatic. So for the rest of their...
I'm sorry, but if a boy is saying openly that he's going to shoot up a school, I don't think that you can be dramatic, quote unquote, enough about that. Now, why bring up Nancy Mace when this district in Wisconsin has a congressman? His name is Brian Steele, Steil. Why isn't he doing something? Why isn't he stepping in? Why isn't he making a statement? The last time I looked, I didn't find anything. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he just doesn't want to get involved. However, where's the governor? Where's the governor of Wisconsin? Why is the school board being so passive? Why is it that a kid who threatens to shoot up a school, if you want to tell the girls to go screw off and that you don't care about their safety or their privacy, that's bad enough. But when you're now dealing with a kid who says that he's going to shoot up a school and you're telling the girls that they're the problem, not that kid, then we've got a really, really serious problem.
Their lives, these girls should just keep their mouths shut, not to make any waves or not to make somebody else especially a boy or a man, uncomfortable. Makes no sense to me, but let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Like I said, in the description box, I am going to include a story that gives you a few more of the details that were leading up to this, and also has contact information if you want to just drop a line. Like I said, do not harass anybody. Do not use foul language. Remember that we're all grown-ups and we're actually trying to get something done about this. And the more excuses people have to dismiss you, whether that be because of your use of profanity or just being outright disrespectful, the more that people are going to dismiss you. So in stories like this, even though your emotions may want to take over and you might want to say things just exactly the way that you feel them, I would implore you to use your better judgment and remember that you want to come off sounding professional and sane, because that's what's going to make change happen at this point. Flying off the handle will not help any of us. Anyway, if you guys want to see just a plain fun video, because this one was a little too heavy, check out either of the videos on your screen. I have been a fool lately on some of these other videos. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. We just passed 60,000 subscribers today. Thank you all very much for doing it. When you hit the subscribe button, I just want to remind you to click on the bell and make sure that you're getting all notifications so you know anytime I upload. Thank you for watching. As always, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
They bought into his bullshit.
Okay. Nope. Well, that was great. That was great. I appreciate that. Hey, Milo's mom. Good to see you. Oh, I disagree. I think that Nancy Mace cares very deeply about this issue. Now, whether or not you agree with her approach, or whether or not you agree with the language she's using or her techniques or whatever, as I have said in previous streams, we would not have gotten to this point if anybody had listened and if things hadn't gotten out of hand. Whether you're talking about the Capitol, whether you're talking about private gyms, whether you're talking about spas or about schools or anything else, you're going to have a lot of pushback when nobody listens and when crazy, ridiculous laws are passed that leave you with no choice. And when you've got the ACLU and other organizations out there agitating to invade women's spaces, and indeed to drug and mutilate kids at younger and younger ages, which is happening. Rachel Levine, the current, I think he's the assistant secretary over at HHS, has openly advocated for lowering the age at which children can be given puberty blockers. This is grotesque. It's grotesque. And I've said on multiple occasions, and I will continue to say this, that I am not a fan of Donald Trump. I did not vote for him, nor would I ever, unless he was running against, like, I don't know, AOC or something. That I do not like Donald Trump. I am not looking forward to his administration. I think that some of the choices that he's made for cabinet positions have been absolutely horrifying. The thought of Robert RFK Jr. running HHS makes my blood run cold. If they had put him in charge of Interior, that would have been one thing, because he's been very active in terms of like environmental issues, and he ran an organization called Riverkeeper, and so he's quite knowledgeable about issues like that. And if he was at Interior, he would do no harm. But in anything involving health, the man is a huge danger, and he's a wacko conspiracy theorist, and I have had him in my sights for decades now. I don't like the fact that Elon Musk has so much influence over these cabinet appointments. I'm not excited about that. And for, the people who are saying, well, Elon Musk has put so much weight behind these trans ads and this movement and everything. Well, Elon Musk has a dog in the hunt. He has, one of his many children has transitioned and gone no contact with Elon Musk, and he's very angry about that. So, anyway, but But the fact remains, Elon Musk or no Elon Musk, Donald Trump or no Donald Trump, we have serious, serious problems in this country. And if the mere thought of Donald Trump coming in to office and putting his people in is enough to get the Biden administration to withdraw those horrendous Title IX changes that were made regarding women's sports, then I consider that to be a win. And I don't care who's responsible for it. At this point, I don't give a damn. At this point, all I want is for sanity to prevail. Now, does that mean that all these appointees are going to be sane? Absolutely not. There are people who I do not like. There are people who I think are actively dangerous. However, one thing at a time, all right? Let's just see how it unfolds. And if there are changes made that I agree with, I will back them no matter who is proposing them. How about that? Hey, Sass. Well, apparently the parents have been trying like crazy to do something about this situation. And they are being railroaded because the kid was told he could no longer go into the girls' locker room, and he continued to go in there, and he continued to escalate. So that is a problem. That is a problem. And the kid sounds unhinged. He sounds like he could possibly be dangerous. And why would you risk the safety of all the students in this school? If you want to say, well, we just don't give a damn about those girls and they're a bunch of drama queens, that's one thing. But when a kid threatens to shoot up a school and puts the entire school at risk, kids and faculty alike, then it's time to step in and do something about it. What? What? Kamala loving imbecile. I didn't vote for her. I can't stand her. What are you talking about? And see, this is exactly what I was talking about yesterday. If you have a point of view that is not to one extreme or the other, or if you don't pledge your loyalty to Trump, then automatically you are the opposite extreme and you will be labeled as such. Open gate, you're out of your mind. But okay, whatever. I hope that you got that out of your system and that you can go and have a good rest of the day now that you've told me off. Kamala loving. I have spoken out very, very openly about Kamala Harris, about how much I dislike her, about what a terrible candidate she was, about how I didn't agree with her positions, but okay. And yeah, I hate Donald Trump. Big fucking deal. You're not blocked, Britt. I can see. I can absolutely see. I can absolutely see your comment. Go eat your red number 5 poison foods. I think I'll go do that. I don't give a shit about the dye in food. What I care about is that RFK Jr. is nuts when it comes to vaccines. That is my concern. That is my concern. And he's done a lot of damage overseas, by the way. A lot of damage. He's nuts. And he has openly consorted with and promoted HIV denialists. He formed partnerships with Scientology and the Nation of Islam. So no, thank you. You can keep him. He's nuts. And I have a lot of problems with Tulsi Gabbard as well. But like I said, we'll see. If he could stick to dye, that would be one thing. But if he starts meddling in things like vaccination, no, that's where you lose me. Absolutely not. All right, you guys, I am out. It's a short stream today. But thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. And please do subscribe on your way out to make up for the guy who just said he was going to unsubscribe. And thank you so much for being here. And I will see all of you guys tomorrow. I don't know what my topic will be, but I'm sure I'll dig something up. All right, guys. Thanks again. And I will see you guys the next time. See you later.